wanted to talk about mostly was about the difference between seatment and the misconceptions of, or between the standing and the misconceptions behind the term seatment.
Yeah.
So if we could talk about that for a couple minutes and
Sure.
clarify that. Sure.
Okay, standing is having skin in the fight. Okay, standing is having a lawful, enforceable right or interest in an issue. For example, someone from Spain has a voice in what happens in Spain. They don't have a voice in what happens in Ireland. Okay, so standing is a fundamental issue. If you're just coming in and flapping your mouth about something that doesn't concern you, you're nothing but an opinionated busybody, right? But if you have standing, if there is some ownership interest or material interest or inheritance interest or whatever it is that makes you a valid commenter and a valid person of interest, is the technical legalistic term, a person of interest. If this makes you a person of interest and a person of substance, then you have standing. Okay?
Yes.
So you have an interest, number one, and you have substance, number two, and that gives you standing. So if you look around and you think about the concept of standing, well, what do you stand on every day? Just think about it. You stand on the land and soil.
Right.
So if you don't have land and soil, you don't have standing as a government or as an individual. And this is where the idea of statelessness arises. If you don't have land and soil that's your own, then you don't have standing and you don't have a state. Okay, you can't have a state without land and soil. So this issue of standing is absolutely crucial. And so is the difference between lawful and legal. Lawful is what happens between you and me. Lawful commerce, lawful trade, what some people call free trade, is what happens between me and you. There's no business face between us, okay? It's just me and Lisa cut a deal. I give her $10 and she gives me some radishes, okay? This is us doing business. All right? So that is a lawful transaction. I buy her house for X numbers of silver dollars, right? That is completely lawful business between two unincorporated business entities. We are acting as lawful persons. We're persons in the sense of, we have a separate entity, a name, okay? And we're doing business in our own name, right? Now, if you take that a step further, you've got something called corporate, but not incorporated, just simply corporate. And that means that you have another business person, and that's typical of unincorporated small businesses, little mom and pop businesses like Joe and Larry's Tire Shop that isn't incorporated and that is simply doing business as Joe and Larry's Tire Shop, right? So you have unincorporated, corporate, and then you have incorporated. And incorporated is what we think of with the entire spectrum of business models that were developed by the Roman Curia: cooperatives, foundations, trusts, S corps, B corps, nonprofits, all of that. That's all in the incorporated realm. So you got these three different kinds of businesses. Which one of them has standing on the land and soil? Which one is being operated by lawful persons? Okay. Which business is lawful versus legal? Okay, lawful is a higher standard.
That's right.
Okay, so, which business is committed to lawful standards versus those that are committed to legal standards?
Your corporated business, basically.
Right, it's that the
The
lawful, right, those that are engaged in trade, those that are engaged in lawful international commerce, but not as legal persons, as lawful persons.
Right.
All right. So, and the only ones that can have standing at law or in law are the living people and their direct personal lawful business. Everything else is legal. And legal is a whole different standard. So when we're talking about a lawful person, we're talking about you in your public persona doing business as Anna Maria Reisinger.
Right.
Or
Dorothy's Donuts.
Or yeah, Dorothy's Donuts, when it's just a mom and pop unincorporated family business where there's no incorporation, there's no state license, there's none of that other stuff that is part of the legal world. Okay?
Right.
So that's why the Amish should feel right at home with our vendors.
Exactly.
Right? They fit right in because they're all operating as lawful businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we want to go. Now, in the new world, there will be only two laws, the law of gratitude and the law of love. And there will be two courts, one for people and one for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. There won't be 80 million statutes. There won't be 80 million codes. All this stuff that has encumbered us and weighed us down and wasted hundreds upon hundreds of billions of dollars of human effort will be gone, like a giant burden taken off your back. But in exchange, you will have this very simple rule of treating others the way you would wish to be treated yourself. And you'll have this other very simple rule, which is to be grateful for all of the things, all the blessings that come into your life that are gifts. We're not aware of our gifts. This entire planet was gifted to all of us. Think of that. A gift. It was just a gift. All right? So everything you are and everything you have is a gift. Learn to be grateful for it. And in that gratitude, learn to give back. Learn to share. Learn to be gracious. Realize that whatever you gained by whatever you did was a gift. And as such, maybe you did your part by aligning with the truth or by bringing your soul into resonance with love. Maybe this is your entire shrine and glory, is that you made that choice and did that. But when you're looking at the material world and you're looking at the issue of standing, we're all inheritors of a gift.
Everything you needed to know, you learned in kindergarten.
Right. Right.
That was a book too.
That's a good book too, think about others. Think about where you fit in. Think about your rights and don't be afraid to stand up for your rights. But at the same time, don't try to impose your opinions and your rights on other people. What's that old saying? My mom was constantly telling me as a kid growing up, your rights end where someone else's begin. It's a very simple little saying, but it's hard to understand. It's hard to put in motion in your own life without a lot of practice. Okay? You have to learn where those boundaries are, and you need to learn to live within them so that you're not projecting power that isn't yours. Okay? 9/10 of the squabbling that we see go on between the state and county assemblies and between people within each assembly is simply that they haven't mastered that concept of the limitation of their own power, and where the lines can be drawn with justice and where they don't exist. So just as our law, it was always based on the injured party. I had to serve as injured party so that all of these courts could be overcome. Jesus had to die on a cross so that sin and blame could be overcome. If you really think about it, the entire Christian story is about the overturning of condemnatory law. Law was brought to condemn mankind. It was brought to show us that we are incapable of obeying law. Okay? And it did. Here was Moses. What did he do? He came down from the Mount Sinai with 10 commandments. He promptly exploded that into 640 other little, dietary laws and laws about what kind of bath you had to take before this and before that. It became an entire huge roster of laws that you had to observe if you were going to be an observant Jew. And it made it impossible to be an observant Jew, right?
Right.
Okay, so what did Jesus do? What did he say he did?
2 commandments.
2 commandments. All right, so we couldn't obey 10. We couldn't obey all of the codes that were set down in Deuteronomy. Okay, we couldn't do all of that. Forget it. It was beyond us. We stand condemned under the law. So what do we need to do? We need to simplify things. We need to concentrate on what matters. We need to get real about our situation, who we are, what we're supposed to be doing with our lives, and how we're supposed to be treating this planet. And when we do that, we automatically come together. That's one of the effects. And the other thing is that we become humble. We realize that, all this hierarchy is nonsense. All this hierarchy is artificial. It's some sort of man-made construct that, like kids playing King of the Hill.
That's it. There it is. So, Anna, what is then your definition of seatment? If that's standing, what is seatment?
Well, while standing is about your basic position, and whether you're an heir or not, whether you are the person who has an interest or not, all of that. Seatment is about organizational functionality. Okay, seatment is just, are you together enough to provide the functions that you ultimately want and need to provide the people that are living in your state of the union? Mm-hmm. And so there are the 4 pillars. Once you have your general assembly, you're seated. Okay, you're at the table. You can now make decisions. And maybe that decision-making process will require you to enter a roll call vote for your state, that is being taken by the Federation. Okay, so the Federation comes in, they say, all right, we've got this international incident, or we have this situation like the transhumanism agenda, or we have this this housekeeping issue of enrolling the Western states as states of the Union. We come to you in your General Assembly, we place the question before you as the state government, and you all take a vote And that's what happens. Okay. So you, as a General Assembly, you're already seated. You're already at the table. You're already able to vote, right? But when you have seatment, that's telling the world, okay, well, we're totally open for business. We are able to provide our own courts. We're able to provide our own defense, and we're able to provide our own business decisions. So we're here. We're open for business. We're doing all the functions that we set out to do. So that's the difference between being seated and seatment. Now, you can continue to function as a General Assembly, and you can provide the basics of seatment long before you're actually having any kind of formal seatment recognition. But this is a state issue. Seatment is a state issue, and only kind of as an afterthought or an official rubber stamp or whatever. It's only secondarily a federation issue. The real issue is, are you up to speed and functioning as an assembly?
Are you ready to go?
Yeah. Have you got all your pieces lined up, and are you functioning? Do you have a court system that can function? Do you have a militia that can function? Do you have an international business committee of state citizens that can make decisions for your state? This is the issue. It's not you're not chasing after some little rubber stamp from me. The challenge is entirely within your state and within your organization. Right. And so you're already seated at the table through your General Assembly, but your seatment, whether you have all your functions in order and functioning, that's up to your state assembly. And then, it's just a matter of kind of raising your hand and saying, yeah, we got it all together, guys. We got our General Assembly is meeting regularly. Our militia is under development. We have militia members. We have, plans for our taking care of our people. We have our court system set up. We have a jury pool. We have justices. We have a clerk. We have a bail bondsman. We got it together here. We're moving. So some people got the idea that you had to, seatment had to occur before you were a real state. No. You're a real state the moment you bring together your General Assembly.
Right. So I've been asked before, how do you know when you're ready?
That's a good question.
And I said, well, you look around and you have a General Assembly and you have your General Assembly and you've got everything together and everybody kind of knows what's going on. And you've got your militia and you've got your International Business Assembly that's starting to really function and tell the internationally what they want done. And you look around, you go, I think we're there, and you have that conversation with your assembly that says, are you ready? Because ready means you're going to take, each and every one of you are going to take up your duty and you're going to work your assembly.
Right.
Okay. And when they all go, yeah, we're ready. We're there. I always say the difference is you quit asking, hey, Anna, are we ready? Hey, Anna, are we ready? And you say, hey, Anna, we're ready. Right.
And Anna says,
difference.
Glory, thanks to God. We're ready.
But I will offer, Anna, if you want a great big rubber stamp, I'll design you one.
Well, yeah, it's an internal thing. Seatment is an internal thing to the state assembly, and you don't get any extra gold stars, the federation's approval or anything. All that really happens upon seatment is that the person who's been serving as your marshal at arms becomes a sergeant at arms.
Okay. We haven't done that yet. We haven't
And
made that transition yet.
But it's the same basic function. It's, it's just a different jurisdiction.
Mhm.
And then the coordinator becomes a liaison position where you just appoint someone to be the liaison officer that is in contact with the Federation, gives us a point of contact so that when something happens and some dust up in the international forums comes forward and we need to go back to the state assemblies and say, hey guys, what do we do about this?